We've got a fascinating puzzle in front of us today. All those unresolved cliffhangers that Phase 4 and 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Multiverse Saga have, well, thrown our way.
Yeah.
Think of this as your backstage pass
Mhm.
to understanding what's still hanging in the balance.
Exactly. We've been looking at this article from Screen Rant. I need the MCU to address these 10 cliffhangers that have remained unanswered for too long. And honestly, it's a great place to start.
Okay.
So our goal today is basically to dissect these 10 dangling threads from the recent movies and the Disney Plus shows. Give everyone a bit of a shortcut to grasping the major open questions in this massive, sprawling multiversal story.
Okay, so this Multiverse Saga, it really is a whole different beast compared to what we're used to, isn't it? Phases 4 through 6 have definitely shifted gears. We've gone from these sort of relatively self-contained hero journeys to this, well, this outright multiversal chaos with cosmic threats just popping up everywhere.
Yep, pandemonium's a good word for it. It's a far cry from the more, let's say, linear buildup we saw back in the Infinity Saga.
Right.
That's a key point. You've got shows like Loki, What If, even bits of Mrs. Marvel that have fundamentally messed with the idea of a single fixed canon.
Mm.
And then films like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. I mean, they didn't just nudge the multiverse open, they basically kicked the door down.
Yeah, they did.
And it's left us with some incredibly intriguing but definitely unresolved situations.
Okay, let's dive straight into maybe one of the biggest head scratchers.
Yeah.
This comes out of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Remember that mid-credit scene? Charlize Theron shows up as Klee,
Oh, yeah.
and she warns Doctor Strange about an incursion, basically, two universes smashing into each other. That felt pretty major.
It did. And what's fascinating, or maybe frustrating, is that this wasn't presented as just some minor side quest. It felt like a huge, looming cosmic crisis, sort of foundational to the whole multiverse saga narrative.
Right.
But, like the article points out, their journey after that, it's a complete blank slate. We're just left wondering about Strange's new role. Is he like a multiversal firefighter now?
Exactly. And Klee herself, she's from the dark dimension, right?
Mm-hmm.
So doesn't that suggest Dormammu and all those other mystical realms could suddenly become major players again? It feels like this huge corner of the MCU that's just been teased.
It does feel that way. And think about the scale of multiversal instability we've already seen. It just stands to reason that investigating these incursions would be, like, job number one for someone like Strange.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's been zero follow-up, it creates this real narrative tension. Like, what's going on there?
And speaking of Strange, he didn't exactly come out of that movie totally fine, did he? That third eye just popping open right at the end.
Yeah.
It can't be good.
No. And that raises this really crucial question about where his character is headed. I mean, that third eye is so heavily linked to dark magic, right?
Right.
And we've seen what that kind of power did to some of his variants. You know, the ones who became actual multiversal menaces. The movie itself showed us a Strange totally consumed by the Darkhold.
So is our main Doctor Strange, the one we know, heading down that same path? We saw what the Darkhold did to Wanda. It was devastating.
Exactly.
Could Steven actually become a threat by the time we get to Secret Wars? Or is he going to pull through and stay a hero? It's a pretty massive question mark hanging over one of the MCU's absolute key players.
Absolutely. It really speaks to that whole idea of the corrupting influence of, forbidden knowledge. Okay, so shifting gears pretty dramatically now to something happening right here on Earth or maybe above Earth. Who can forget the ending of Eternals?
Forget it. Are you kidding me? A literal celestial the size of a planet sort of scoops up Cersei and a few others to judge all of humanity. You don't exactly see that every day.
You certainly don't. And what's truly baffling, and the article really hammers this home, is the just deafening silence on this since then in all the subsequent MCU projects.
It's weird, right?
Yeah. You have this being of basically unimaginable power poised to maybe wipe out all life on Earth and crickets. It's like everyone just collectively decided to ignore the giant glowing space god hanging out up there.
It really does feel like a massive oversight. You'd think that would have some pretty immediate, global consequences. People would notice. Oh, and the article also reminded me, that's where Harry Styles popped up as Star Fox.
All right. Arrows.
And then just vanished again.
Which just adds to this feeling of storylines being introduced and then sort of abruptly dropped. Now, if you connect this back to the whole potential for a multiversal reset in Secret Wars, you have to wonder if Arisham's judgment is going to somehow play into that.
Yeah.
It just feels way too monumental to simply ignore forever.
Agreed. Okay, so from celestial judgment to something a bit more cryptic. The ending of Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings.
Yeah.
Those rings, those mysterious rings, were clearly sending out some kind of signal.
Right.
And the Avengers, well, Wong, Banner, Captain Marvel, they were understandably pretty stumped.
What's so intriguing about this one is the implication that the Ten Rings are way older than anyone thought. Like, maybe not even from Earth. Maybe not Kree.
Right.
The fact that the Avengers got called in suggests it's a threat, or at least a presence, of considerable significance, potentially with multiversal or, cosmic implications.
And the fan theories just went nuts.
That's-
Was it Kang sending a signal or maybe receiving one? Was the Celestials something to do with the quantum realm?
Yeah.
But then Shang-Chi himself has just been kind of conspicuously absent since his own movie.
He really has.
That's a pretty significant mystery box that's just sitting there completely unopened.
It is. It was definitely presented as this pivotal moment, another piece of the bigger Multiverse Saga puzzle. And yeah, we're still just waiting to find out who or what was on the other end of that signal.
Okay, now let's talk about a post-credit scene that really got the speculation engines revving, the very end of Spider-Man. No Way Home.
Oh, yeah, this one's a biggie.
Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy's Venom, he briefly pops into the MCU, has a drink, learns about Thanos, and then poof, he's gone back. But he leaves behind just a little piece of the symbiote.
Mm-hmm. Just sitting there on the bar.
Talk about a mic drop moment.
It was such a tantalizing tease because it immediately opened up the door for Spider-Man, for Tom Holland's Spidey, to finally get his iconic black suit. That's such a huge storyline in the comics.
Huge.
But as the article rightly points out, there's been absolutely zero follow-up. Not in the MCU Spidey films, not in the Sony Venom movies, nothing.
Exactly. So the massive question burning in everyone's mind is, who is going to bond with that little blob of goo? Is it finally going to be Peter Parker? Or could it be someone totally different, maybe Mac Gargan or someone unexpected?
Yeah.
Especially because the black suit played such a crucial role in the original Secret Wars comic event. That's actually where Peter Parker first got the symbiote in the comics. So the anticipation for this payoff, it's immense.
It really is. The idea of a proper Venom versus Spider-Man clash within the actual MCU, that's something fans have been waiting ages for. And that little piece of symbiote felt like the definitive starting pistol for it. Still waiting for the race to start, though.
Seriously. Okay, moving on to, well, what were supposed to be the big bads of this whole saga. The Council of Kangs from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Quantumania.
The Council, that mid-credit scene.
Wow.
It felt like basically an infinite number of Kang variants showing up. You had Immortus, Ramatut, the Scarlet Centurion leading them, and it just felt like this massive escalation. This wasn't just one villain. It was a whole multiverse full of them.
It absolutely felt like that. It was presented as this huge multiversal response to King the Conqueror getting seemingly defeated by Ant-Man, and it directly set the stage for what was, at the time, called Avengers, Kang Dynasty.
Right. But now, well, as we know, real-world stuff happened. Jonathan Majors is out, and the upcoming Avengers movie is now Avengers. Doomsday, seemingly pivoting to Dr. Doom as the main threat.
Which, understandably, throws a pretty big wrench into those original plans.
A huge one.
Yeah.
But the article makes a really valid point here. The story still needs to somehow account for the Council of Kangs.
Yeah.
You can't just introduce thousands of potentially universe-ending variants and then pretend they don't exist, can you?
You'd think not. They were positioned as this fundamental through line for the entire Multiverse Saga. Their introduction suggested the real threat wasn't just one Kang, but the very concept of endless conflicting timelines and the variants controlling them.
Precisely. Their whole ominous presence, this sort of multiversal war council, it just can't be swept under the rug, even with the change in the main bad guy. The sheer number of Kangs we saw hinted at a level of multiversal chaos that still demands some kind of resolution. Their story wasn't just a minor subplot. It felt absolutely central.
Yeah, how they handle that transition, or if they somehow fold the council into Doom's plans, that's going to be fascinating to see.
Definitely. Okay, let's shift gears to something maybe a little lighter. A more character-driven question mark, anyway.
Yeah.
The very end of Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 3.
Yes.
After Peter Quill's surprisingly normal, kind of heartwarming retirement back on Earth with his grandpa.
Which felt earned.
Totally. But then we get that title card. The legendary Star-Lord will return.
Yeah. That was such a satisfyingly grounded ending for Peter's personal arc, but that specific promise of his return, It definitely sparked a lot of speculation. Like, what does that mean?
Exactly. Is he going to have solo adventures here on Earth? Does he eventually get pulled back into space somehow? Or is he maybe going to play a role in the big team-up events like Avengers, Doomsday, or Secret Wars?
And that word legendary, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Could it even be hinting at a variant from another universe? Maybe a Star-Lord who never quite settled down like ours did.
Ooh, interesting thought. He's definitely a character who could easily bridge those big cosmic storylines with the more grounded human elements we saw at the end of all three. It feels like Marvel put that card there very deliberately.
It feels like it. With the whole multiverse saga hurtling towards its climax and cosmic stuff still very much in play, Star-Lord's eventual return feels like a narrative thread that definitely needs picking up somewhere.
Okay, now, for a multiverse jump that sent a lot of comic book fans, myself included, into a bit of a frenzy, Monica Rambeau.
With Marvel's post-credits, yeah.
She wakes up in this alternate universe, right? And who does she see? A variant of her mother, Maria, but is binary, which is awesome in itself.
Super cool callback for comic fans, yeah. Binary's a big power upgrade.
And next to her, Kelsey Grammer is Beast. Actual X-Men Beast. Mutants confirmed in the MCU. Well, sort of. In an alternate reality, at least.
I mean, that was a truly significant multiversal tease, wasn't it? Finally, explicitly bringing the X-Men into the MCU fold, even if it's via this alternate reality doorway. And getting Kelsey Grammer back as Beast, that was just a masterstroke. It strongly suggests a future collision between the cosmic side of the MCU and the mutant world.
And the article points out, didn't we get confirmation recently that several X-Men, including Grammer's Beast, are actually in the cast for Avengers Doomsday?
That's the word, yeah.
So Monica could very well be our bridge, our way of connecting these two massive corners of the Marvel Universe. But until we actually see more, it's just this really exciting question mark hanging out there.
It really is. How does Monica get back? When does she get back? And how exactly does this mutant reality impact the main MCU timeline and the whole multiverse saga? Those are major unresolved questions that have fans, understandably, very eager for answers.
Okay, switching gears again. From mutants to something a bit more, I don't know, supernatural, shadowy, that post-credit scene in Eternals.
The other Eternals post-credit scene, yes.
Dane Whitman, Kit Harington, is reaching for that spooky ebony blade. And then he's interrupted by this voice off-screen.
Yeah.
Mahershala Ali's voice.
Blade! Chills. Blade's first actual vocal appearance in the MCU. It was a huge moment. And it immediately hinted at two big things. Dane Whitman finally becoming the Black Knight, and the introduction of this darker, more mystical, maybe even horror-tinged side of the MCU.
For sure. But, as the article notes, both of these characters seem to be stuck in some kind of narrative limbo right now.
They really do. Blade's solo movie has had its share of reported behind-the-scenes challenges and delays.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen or heard anything more about the Black Knight since that very brief but very impactful scene. But the potential there, I mean, a team-up between them, exploring vampires and other supernatural threats in the MCU, it's genuinely thrilling.
Especially after seeing how well something like Werewolf by Night worked, or
Yeah.
even the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine leaning into more mature themes. There's clearly an appetite for this stuff.
Absolutely. The whole supernatural realm of Marvel Comics is incredibly rich, just full of potential. Blade and the Black Knight felt like the perfect gateway into that world. Hopefully their stories, both separate and maybe connected, get revisited soon.
Fingers crossed. Okay, finally, let's look towards the future, the next generation of heroes, the very end of the Marvels.
Right.
We see Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel herself, taking the initiative. She goes and finds Kate Bishop, Haley Steinfeld's Hawkeye,
At her apartment.
and basically recruits her for a new team. It's a move that just screams Young Avengers setup.
No, it was the most explicit groundwork we've seen laid for the Young Avengers yet. And fans have been clamoring for that team for ages. We've already met so many other potential members, right? America Chavez, Cassie Lang as Stature, Eli Bradley as Patriot.
Yeah.
So seeing Kamala actually taking the lead, Nick Fury style, trying to form this group, it felt really natural and super exciting.
And the article points this out quite sharply. There's a very real risk of losing momentum here if an official Young Avengers project isn't announced relatively soon.
That's the danger, yeah.
We're seeing Sam Wilson starting to put together his own official Avengers team. It feels like the right time for the younger heroes to get their chance to shine, to, carry the torch forward. But if they wait too long, that potential payoff might just diminish.
That's the crucial point, I think. The seeds have absolutely been planted. There's clearly an audience desire to see this team up happen. The big question is just whether Marvel is going to seize this opportunity and actually deliver on that promise before the actors age out or the hype fades.
It's a lot to juggle. Well, okay, looking back at all 10 of these,
Yeah.
wow, it's almost overwhelming, isn't it? Just how many significant storylines are currently left dangling within this multiverse saga.
It really is. It just underscores the sheer ambition and maybe the complexity of this whole current chapter of the MCU. The interconnectedness is maybe more intricate than it's ever been before.
So for everyone listening in, we're genuinely curious. Which one of these cliffhangers has grabbed your attention the most? Is it Strange's Third Eye? Arisham's Judgment? The Symbiote?
Or maybe the Kangs or Star-Lord's return.
Yeah. Which unresolved storyline are you most eager to see picked up, and why? And how do you think these different threads might start weaving together as we head towards Avengers, Doomsday, and ultimately Secret Wars? It really does feel like this massive interconnected tapestry they're building.
It does. And maybe just one final thought to leave people with. Consider this. With a multiverse as vast and, frankly, as unpredictable as the one the MCU has unleashed, is it possible that some of these cliffhangers won't necessarily get neatly tied up in the way we expect?
What do you mean?
Well, could some of them maybe branch off
Right.
into entirely new, maybe unforeseen narrative paths? Maybe not every loose end leads back to the main thread, you know? Just something to ponder as we wait for answers.